Well, thank you for being with me today. My name is Chuck Mellen. I'm one of the elders at Crosspointe Community Church. And each of us, we will be giving you a short devotional and thought and challenge as we're in the COVID-19 coronavirus season. And so based on that, I wanted to look at a couple verses for you about serving Christ as his representative to our church and community. So in that light, I wanted to ask a question. Are we behaving as Christ would behave in our time? Does God have anything to say about this? Of course he does. And in Matthew, if we look at Matthew 5, verses 12 through 16, it says, you're to be the salt of the earth. You're to be the light for the world. And it says, Jesus says, let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and thereby glorify God. 1 Peter 2 talks about our behavior is to be excellent to the world. And are we being that way? Are we being as the world? As you see these video clips of people coming out of stores and throughout United States and the world, we see people hoarding, and it's kind of a joke about the toilet paper, but are we doing that as believers? Or are we thinking of others as we're exhorted to do in John 13 and Philippians 2? Christ gives us the example in John 13. Not only does he wash the disciples' feet, but he also says, I give you a new command. And that command is to love others, not just as we love ourselves, but as Christ loves us. And we know he died for us. He paid the penalty for our sin through his blood on the cross. And because of that sacrificial love, we can have a relationship with God. Now, are we doing that? Are we following the example of Christ? And then Paul says in Philippians chapter 2, he says, we're to think of others before we think of ourselves, before we think of our own needs, whatever those may be, whether they're material or spiritual. I am to think of you before I think of myself. Are we behaving in that manner? I hope that we are, as believers, that the light of Christ, the salt of Christ, could be seen in our behavior, and our attitudes are just like Christ, like Paul exhorted us from prison, to be thinking of others first. So in that light, I'd really like to challenge you in three words. One, resist. Resist being like the world and be like Christ. Embrace being like Christ, like a true believer who loves others before you love yourself. And finally, responsibility. The word responsibility is to be pleasing in all things toward Christ, that we would be a witness to our world. Thank you for being with me today.